So if you've seen any of my work on Instagram, you'll know I love to design posters. They're often intentionally imperfect. Lots of texture, noise, motion blur, but it still retains this sort of organized composition to it. And so in today's video, I'm going to break down how I make one of these posters. This one on screen now. Let's get into it. So, of course, we start with a blank page. So step one, we need to build a sort of foundation to work with. Right at the start, I like to place my main subject, my main image, and some basic shapes around it to kind of figure out where things are going to go. And then step two is delete everything and start again. In all seriousness, this is sometimes part of the process. A lot of this is trial and error, and you might not get it first try. You might not land on something straight away that you're really happy with. I didn't in this example. So I tried an idea, didn't feel like it worked too well, and then I deleted everything and just started again. So in these early stages, just keep in mind that nothing in your design is permanent until you hit export. So keep trying different compositions, include different images and fonts, and just see what works well together. Because at this point, you're not aiming for a completely finished design. You're just aiming for a general sense of balance across all the elements, and then you can start adding in like more fine details and texture and things like that afterwards. But yeah, it's really important at this stage and in the design process in general that if your design looks wrong or feels wrong, that's a good thing, because that's information you didn't previously have. You can make a creative decision in a poster design or a video edit or whatever creative thing you're working on, and that creative decision might be the worst idea ever, but you won't know that until you try it. So you have to try the idea first, realize it's not exactly how you want it to be, and then make changes to that to start guiding your design in the correct direction. So that is the bulk of my creative process in this specific design and in most of my poster designs. But with that being said, at this point, I am happy with the general composition. You know, we have a solid background color. We have one main image in the center. We have shapes. We have text that I'm generally happy with. We have some placeholder text that is going to eventually be changed into something relevant. But at this point, to me, it already looks like the cover of a magazine, which I'm happy with. And at this point, we can start adding character. We can add, you know, motion blur effects. We can start filling in the shapes with other images. So as motion blur is being added to the center image here, I want to kind of dive into how I do that, because I use it across almost every design I do. And the process is you first want to duplicate the layer you're adding this effect to. You want to convert this duplicated layer to a smart object, and then go to filter, blur, motion blur, and then you just want to mess with the angle and intensity until you get the desired effect that you like. And then on this layer, you want to create a layer mask at the bottom right side of Photoshop. And then with your layer mask selected, you want to hit Command or Control I to invert your mask. It'll hide the effect across your entire layer. But then you want to use the brush tool, which the shortcut is just B on your keyboard, to brush in exactly where you want the effect to be. So instead of just applying any effect to a layer, you do this process that I just went over to have complete control over where it is. You're not just applying effects, you're basically painting them onto your design. But next we're going to fill in the rest of these shapes, and I'm making sure to use relevant images here. I go to the Skylark Instagram page as well to include kind of visuals from his new brand. It's to make the whole design cohesive and make sense. Now the next stage in the design process is my personal favorite. We're going to add color and texture. This can completely transform your design, because we can remove every single color you see on screen now and have complete control over what colors we add back in. And to do that, we're going to first make the entire thing black and white. So come to the circle icon at the bottom right of Photoshop, hit black and white, and then you can mess with the presets inside of the black and white effect. Usually I go for either maximum white or maximum black, and it just adds a lot of contrast. And then above this black and white layer, we're going to add a threshold layer, which essentially removes all the grays and midtones from your image and just keeps the black and the white. Inside of this threshold layer, we can use the sliders to bring back some of that detail. But if you find you still can't get the level of detail you want, you can add a noise layer underneath, and that noise will bring back some of that detail as well, as you can see on this main image of Justin Bieber on screen right now. So now that our design is black and white and we've added a threshold layer, we're going to add a gradient map, which gives you full control over the colors you include in your design. So in this design, I'm just cycling through some custom gradient maps until I find the one that I think works the best. And if you want to follow along in this design process with the exact same gradient maps I'm using here, they're in the first line of the description. And if you use code Justin at checkout, you get 20% off. Again, that is first line of the description, code Justin, get 20% off. So the way these gradient maps work is you have a bar shape, and the left-hand side controls all of your shadows, the middle is your midtones, and the right controls your highlights. So with that in mind, you can see which colors are in your shadow section, which are in your midtone section, which are in your highlight section, and you can shift them around to see how it influences the look of your design. And even in my custom gradient map pack, you can go into each color and completely customize them yourself as well. On top of that, you can also stack multiple gradient maps on top of each other to get the exact look you want to go for. So you really do have complete full control over which colors show up in your poster. So in this design, I went with the pink and blue color scheme because I thought it kind of matched the Skylark visuals that I'd seen recently on his brand Instagram page. And then I'm just replacing the placeholder text that we added at the start of this process with information about Justin Bieber. So I just went to Wikipedia for this and copied and pasted sections of that page. This doesn't need to be handwritten essays. This is just to add some more visuals in your poster. So, don't sue me for using Wikipedia for this. I just personally think text in designs is a good visual tool. It can help separate other visuals in your design as well, and it just frames things nicely. So at this stage of the design process, I'm generally happy with how this looks, but there are still some gaps that I'd want to try and fill in. And for this, we're largely going to use some Y2K icons. Now, these don't mean anything really, but they look cool. Not everything needs to be completely tied into the concept of your design. Sometimes visuals just look nice, and you can include them because of that reason. We are also going to include the Skylark logo just to add some of those relevant visuals as well. And we're also going to include some more text at the top of this design that just showcases some of his more popular albums throughout the years. Now, this part did take me a lot of trial and error because there's a lot of competing elements in the design that kind of fight for attention. So it can be difficult to maintain that sense of balance that we started with. But again, like I said earlier, that's fine because every creative decision is data that you didn't previously have. So this is less about getting the design right and more about learning what feels wrong. And that's how you kind of build your creative intuition. So after these icons and logos and final text elements were added, I made some final adjustments. I felt like the entire design was a bit too crowded, so I cropped it and made the entire thing bigger to just include some more blank space around the design. I added some more motion blur and some noise, and that just added some more depth across the entire design. And that is the entire poster. Feel free to check out the poster on Instagram. It is linked in the description also. And if you want me to break down any other kind of style in graphic design, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.